Hey. Jin Yong said a stone-looking female, but there was a motto below being treat girls like stones. He confusedly responded with habak, and it was his belief to treat girls like stones. In elementary school, he was charmless, being rejected by girls 20 times. He was rejected in several different ways, like just confessing made someone cry. At a young age, he was deeply hurt by being rejected. He mentally created a magical friend after losing all his confidence to help him. There sat Jason, his imaginary friend. He was the one who suggested looking at girls as stones. He began to practice mentally conditioning women as stones and did this training through several years. It began with middle school, where he saw women as stones. Back to the present, he was still being talked to by a stone. The stone asked if he had time after school to study together, but Jason's second advice was to not be delusional. Just because a girl smiles at you doesn't mean she likes you. He gave her the cold shoulder because he didn't want to get hurt by her. It was easier to interact with girls once he saw them as stones because he was unable to feel their emotions as they were rocks. He asked Jason to agree with him, and Jason looked like his aging speed was triple our main character's with no reason to be that shredded. He worried he wouldn't be able to find a date, but he decided to give up on that, while Jason sat on his shoulder. He'd rather be neutral than be called a loser, as it was comfortable. He doesn't think about dating ever since the 5 years he viewed ladies as stone. As they were chatting, somebody was behind him and saw he dropped his shiny phone on the ground. "Hey," they called out. She pushed her hair back, asking him if the phone was his, but there was an issue. He immediately recognized it and wondered why she didn't look like a stone. He hasn't seen a girl's face in so long, and I feel bad for his mother. He was frozen, not knowing what to do, and she didn't know why he wasn't answering. But he blurted out, "You're so pretty." He was stunned he did that, and she couldn't believe he would do that. She said thank you, but he snatched his phone, thanked her for picking it up, and apologized. He was running away from her, calling himself a lunatic. Jason viewed it as sweet and romantic, and he didn't know why she wasn't looking like stone. It was impossible to know, but his next course of action was more important. If nothing was done, strange rumors would appear, and his nice life would be in jeopardy. He was scared the girl would act all disgusted. He was all gloomy as his life was ruined, but Jason turned serious and punched his head. He didn't want him to lose his composure and to think of a solution, as even if she wasn't stone, they could just avoid her. She was in a different class, so if he kept a low profile, then he wouldn't run into her. At school, he immediately was brought within her presence, and he wasn't prepared for what would go next. He called Jason for help, and he was told to converse naturally. She introduced him as the person who called her pretty yesterday. She pointed to herself, asking if she was pretty today too, but this glamour made him speechless. So he decided to bolt through them, and Jason complimented how good his decision-making was. He would stand by the second rule to not let himself fall within delusions. She was in a state of confusion, and he declared he would never run into her. But in a pile of stone, she stood there, glistening like stars. She turned around, greeting him, but he took another route to avoid her. This happened once, then twice, leading her to get annoyed. It was getting exhausting for him, but he needed to find a better plan. "Hey," said her with a nasty tone. He was bewildered, and she asked if he was shocked. He wanted to get away from her and to think of a better plan, but she knew he kept ignoring him and listed out what he did. She asked if she did something to offend him, and he realized it turned into another misunderstanding and needed something to say. He told the truth, being every girl looked like a stone to him besides her. She was flustered by his words, and he couldn't believe he would say that. She noticed his hands were shaking, and he was sweating. This caused her to smile, as what he said was genuine. She asked for his name, and we learned he is Park Jin Yong. She wanted to tell himself and got right close to him. Then she said what he just did was flirting, and he was paralyzed. The first rule, treat girls like stones, failed. The second rule, don't get delusional, failed, as he held onto his body because his heart was racing. He imagined proposing to her, then having a child, the child having a rebellious arc, then they die on a deathbed. Jason smacked his jaw because of his messy fantasies. It was the first time in 5 years he saw a girl's face that close up. The strategy to avoid her failed, and instead of thinking of a new strategy, Jason told him the ultimate goal was more important. He was able to stay composed once he saw women as stone, because he didn't feel anything looking at them, which made him unable to be hurt by them. The issue, someone who didn't look like Stone came along. He had no immunity to a real girl's face, so his inner loser started to crawl out. His solution was to keep cool in front of her. The action was set in stone as he decided to try to keep a cool face, but he looked goofy while she was sweating at his goofy look. A brown-haired girl was excited because Jin Yong was looking at her friend while his aura was taking up most of the hallway. His plan was called the desensitization strategy, and his face was only weird because he couldn't see properly. The plan was to just look at her and get used to her face, and Jason wanted him to smile. He decided to smile, and this goofy boy looks worse than the animation of I'm a Ghoul. She was frightened by his forced smile. Now the brown-haired girl was happy Jin Yong was smiling, and his aura took up the whole hallway. She said he was stupid for thinking she couldn't see him, but he was so obvious about it. He believed she couldn't see him and didn't need to adjust his expression, but Jason was getting creeped out. It was time for him to fall back, and Sunwoo asked Soogyong who he was. He was popular with the girls, even Soogyong tried to talk to him. It was believed he had zero interest in girls and was considered the cool type, and that's why the ladies loved him. Soogyong wondered why she was interested in Jin Yong. She tried to brush it off, saying it was nothing, then remembered the moment he called, and he flirted. She noticed something was bothersome with the way she acted with her. The core of the plan was to get used to her face, to keep his composure, but staring at her was not optimal. He didn't want to look weirder as he was just stalking her technically. It was a tough choice between stalker and loser, and he threatened Jason for even saying that. He decided to look at photos of her instead and would want to search for her Instagram. Jason liked that idea and wanted to make haste, but he questioned if he would ask her. But lurking in the shadows is more of a loser move. He awkwardly asked for her Instagram handle, and she was excited to hand it over to him. His plan was going smoothly when she asked him to open the app. She was surprised and looked at how he had 0 followers and 0 following. She asked if he just made the account, and he confirmed he did. He wondered if there was a mistake as he made one in a hurry, but there was a mistake. She laughed, and he was lost on why. The first person he came to about his account was her. A bomb went through his head, and he realized his mistake. She was laughing at how she was the first while he was too blinded and should have thought before doing action. He called out to Jason for help, but Jason left him to be screwed. He made excuses where she was the first person he ran into, and his inner loss began to leak out. She smoothed his panic mode by agreeing with him. She pulled out his phone in the call application and asked if he was curious for her number. He stood there blank, not knowing what to say or do. She punched his chest joking and liked how his reactions were cute. She handed his phone back and wanted him to like her stuff, but he stood there silent. Here came the film from earlier, and Jason told him to stop replaying it in his mind. Sunwoo laid in her bed looking at an image of our beautiful king, but called it a bad photo. Meanwhile, Jin Yong was laying dead on his bed while his phone lit up. Jung Sunwoo liked your photo, it said. Soogyong was dazzled how Jin Yong asked for her Instagram. They laughed how it was just an account he made seconds ago, and she knew he was interested in her. Sunwoo wanted confirmation if he wasn't interested in girls, and he only acted like this around her. Really? She said while he passed the corner of her class. Soogyong would take action to show if it was true or not. In the halls, a scene was called, and he looked behind him. There stood a maiden, fallen over on the ground. Soogyong was doing a cute face acting hurt and wanted Jin Yong to help her. In his view, it was just stone with clothes on it. With his strength, he pulled her hoodie up, causing her to go up then left without saying more. Sunwoo laughed how she was pulled like a radish, while Soogyong wanted to murder him. Jason asked if he was used to looking at her face, but as he kept looking, his face began to blush. It felt new every time he looked at her face, and Jason wanted him to find the fundamental reason. He thought of a few hypotheses, but Jin Yong interrupted because she was over there, and it sounded like she was in need. She glanced over at our dude, and it seems like he didn't want to be spotted, as he was blushing at the sight of her. He asked what she was just doing standing, but she needed to take the bus home but had no fare. He asked where she lived, and she resided in Simo Village Apartments. He was shocked, as it was right in front of the school, but it wasn't that easy. She shyly looked away, saying she had chronic anemia, and I have no idea what that is. He grabbed his wallet and pulled out all the money, offering it as bus fare. She slapped his wallet, saying it looked like he was robbing him, and asked if he could just take her home. She knew he wouldn't just leave her and brought him to the direction. A realization struck him, and to walk her all of the sudden was too much for him. As she was talking, he wasn't paying attention to a single word she was saying. She asked if he was listening, but he was lost, thinking, how did it end up like this? She noticed the situation was quite uncomfortable for him. There was a time where a girl would walk with him every day and he started liking her. However, three rascals were wondering why they were together or if they were even dating, but she shut down that immediately. Tears began to flow after she said, who would date somebody like him? After that day, she stopped walking with him, and he couldn't even express his feelings. He assumed this wouldn't happen again, but she was starting to fall behind. It sounded like she was tired and wincing in pain, and he ran asking if she tripped over something. She sounded like she was going to get defeated by an uphill road because of her condition. She wanted support, and they grabbed hands, and he pulled her up normally. She felt dizzy while he inspected his hand because it got held by a female. She remembered what he did to Soo-gyung and laughed, how she yanked her up like a radish. Soon she thanked him for walking her home, and they said their goodbyes. He wanted his delusion thoughts to end and hoped she had bus fare, or her condition gets cured. She had a sudden realization and called out to Jin-young as it would take a while before she received her allowance. So she hoped he would take care of him again. Her dizziness from running affected her a lot, but he was thinking about ending this quickly, but Jason knew he had more thoughts. His expression wasn't dark, but instead, he was bright as the sun. Sunwoo was unable to get up and he decided to rescue her.